Welcome back to the Man United statistical rebuild on FM26. In episode 2, we aimed for the top 4 or 5 to secure a Champions League spot in the Premier League, and we did it. We achieved that. Points scored, goals for, goals against, goal difference, expected goals, expected against. We hit all the metrics needed for top 4. But in episode 3, this episode, we're aiming for a title challenge. So what does that actually mean? Over the last 5 seasons, Premier League runners-up have scored anywhere from 74 to 92 points. In terms of goals, title challengers, or who we're using, the second place equivalent, is usually hitting 80 or more goals scored and conceding 35 or fewer. That is completely different to the 70 points and 65 goals we needed for top 4. So we know our title race benchmarks. We've given ourselves a challenge of finishing second. If we finish below these benchmarks, we're chasing shadows. But if we can match them, we could genuinely be in with a chance of winning the league. So at the end of season 2, it was 71 points, 63 goals scored, 37 conceded. On paper, we're not far off actually being in the mix for a title challenge, but we do need to improve our underlying numbers to belong at the very top of the league. Second place finishers, Arsenal 3 times, Liverpool and Man United back in 2021 had an eclectic range of points and data. But following the previous seasons, we decided if we could average out what they've achieved, that should be enough to get ourselves into a title race. These title challenges have averaged around 71 expected goals over the course of a season. We were at 64 at the end of season 2. So looking at the data, it's clear that we're lacking in a goal scoring nature. We scored 20 goals below the new target. We had scored 63, whilst the average was 83 for teams that finished in second. Defensively, we're nearly on course. We only conceded 2 more goals than the average over the last 5 years for the team that finished second. We need to convert the draws to wins, we need to convert more of our losses to draws, and we need to close those gaps in the wins and draws columns respectively. Attacking wise, the goal scoring stats are crucial to improve. My gut feeling is this is personnel rather than tactically based. Last season, Benjamin Sesko and Kasper Dolberg both underperformed their expected goals. That could have been what ultimately cost us a challenge, at least for second place in the league. So where's the gap? For us, we know it's finishing in those goal scoring opportunities. In episode 3, that's where we're going to look to improve in the transfer window. We're going to be leaning heavily on Sir Dave Brailsford's marginal gains philosophy. I don't think there's much we need to improve, but any improvement we can get, we're going to aim for it. But closing that gap and finding those marginal gains has not been cheap. This season, in this summer, we've spent around £194 million on new players, but we did recoup £376 million through player sales. For equivalency, Man City spent £327 million. The majority of that went on Kylian Mbappe. Arsenal spent £123 million and Liverpool spent £247 million on new players. We are very much in the middle of a super club rebuild, and we are fighting in terms of money with the big boys. And if we fail, at least we've won the net spend top of the league table, because we had a positive transfer cash flow of £182 million. And although we're throwing our money around and competing with the big boys in terms of transfer fees, our wage bill still sits at roughly £172 million a year. That's not even enough to break into the top 5 for the Premier League. We are being significantly outspent annually on wages by all the clubs we deem to be our rivals this season. And as you know, we've received vast sums of money for our data revolution, so let's see who we moved on. Rasmus Højlund was, quite frankly, turd for us last season. He's been shipped off back to Italy for £87 million. We took the tough decision to ship out our club captain. Bruno leaves to Atletico Madrid for £51 million. Now surprisingly, Cashew Sanu is gone. £44 million to Saudi. Sometimes I just can't get out of the mindset of something being too good to refuse. A £35.5 million profit was exceptional for someone who was just a rotation option. Andre Onana joined him in Saudi. Thank the Lord for that. And finally, Benjamin Sesko left to join Real Madrid. And quite frankly, I think £122 million for a striker that underperformed his XG is quite ludicrous. I mean, he's clearly good, but I think we could strengthen our squad with the sort of money that transfer's brought in. And to be frank, when we used the search, there were plenty of options out there that were better than Šeško in terms of numbers. So let's go data hunting. Lucas Bergvall was brought in to fill the frankly massive shoes of Bruno Fernandes. £55 million. We expected him to add assists and plenty of chances for his teammates. His XA per 90 of 0.29 was incredibly good, especially when it appeared he'd been underutilised by Spurs throughout last season. He had featured in just over the required 1,000 minute threshold. Robert Piccoli joined from Fiorentina, £20 million. He is being brought in to drag our goals for column up. He outperformed his XG in Italy by 6 for Fiorentina last season and loves hitting the target with his shots at a ratio of 58%. Amin Gouiri will be a name familiar to most. He was brought in from Marseille as a viable competition option for Cunha on the left-hand side of the front four. £50 million with phenomenal underlying numbers. His XGO performance of 7 and 0.23 expected assists per 90 meant this was a guy that can score and create. Bradley Barcola was signed from PSG. His XGO performance of 6 and his creative force with an XA of per 90 of 0.24 was phenomenal. He created 14 chances for his teammates in Ligue 1 and was expected to have 5 assists through the season, but only got 2. His teammates let him down. We swooped in £75 million beating Arsenal to his transfer. He'll be usurping Kasper Dolberg in that creative striker role. Our new Pygmal was a lovely little pickup. A good player with decent underlying numbers, he was versatile, but also homegrown at Man United. 17% cross completion, 80% tackles won and 91% pass completion. He will slot in nicely as a backup to Thiago Santos at right back and potentially cover the DM role if Wharton needs a rest. Signed for £31.5 million from Sevilla. And finally, the big one. We signed Endrick. Madrid took our lead striker in Benjamin Šeško, so we're going to sign the player they clearly no longer want that Šeško is going to start ahead of. He's younger than Šeško, he's more versatile than Šeško, and he's more creative than Šeško. In only 18 appearances for Madrid last season, Endrick scored exactly on his XG in the league, and he hit the target with 2.35 shots per 90. He had a better expected assist per 90 minutes than Šeško, and he had more key passes than Šeško in the season. I understand this is a risky signing, but his underlying numbers, albeit in limited game time, when they're extrapolated, were on par or better than Šeško in every single metric. Now the whole deal is concluded and it will cost us around £139 million, and that's at the end of the loan spell. We've bought him in on loan for a season with a hefty monthly loan fee, and we're going to have an obligation to buy for £78 million. All in all, £139 million has been spent on someone that looks better than Šeško, but still needs to prove it. Nearly all of these signings have been signed by marginal gains. It's all based on David Brailsford's philosophy of getting the most out of what you can. Even if it's a slight improvement, it's going to help you dramatically. All of these players we've signed, whether they're replacing someone that we've sold or they're going to dislodge someone from the first team, they're only just outperforming the player that they're replacing. We've got to hope it pays off. So it left our squad looking like this for the season. Quality and depth all across the park and in every position. Most importantly, we had players everywhere across the pitch with proven underlying numbers. So when you invest like this, it's not just a case of get better. We're now expecting things like cup runs, real title challenges, and a deep run in Europe as well. The season got off to a great start. Endrick and Amin Gouiri scored on their respective debuts, and we carried on where we left off at the end of last season, swatting away clubs that were below us in the league. Brentford, Fulham, Sunderland and Derby in the Cup were all easily dispatched. A 7-goal thriller against Aston Villa was truly welcomed. Barcola had a hand in every one of our 5 goals. He registered 2 goals for himself and got 3 assists for his teammates. He looks like he's going to be a wonderful pickup for that false 9 role and is showing Kasper Dolberg how to really perform. Endrick hit the ground running, registering his 5th goal in his 7th game, and the old guard, if you can call them that, of Amad and Mbeumo both picked up a goal in this game as well. A few games later we had an absolutely batshit crazy game, a 5-4 loss to Newcastle. Zio Emery, signed from PSG, scored 4 of Newcastle's 5, and although we had 13 shots on target to their 8, and we had 3.2 XG to their 1.21, we somehow couldn't get the win. Into November, and we had a run of games that saw us beat Valencia and Benfica in Europe, and then have 2 more absolutely crazy games in the Premier League. We had a stupidly crazy 6-5 win over title rivals Arsenal, which saw Patrick Dorgu score the winner in the 89th minute. And then we followed this up with another bonkers game, this time against Chelsea, a 4-3 win where Amid and Kobe Mainu combined for the winner in the 94th minute. We were showing character and fight, and we were providing entertainment, but bloody hell. And then as we approached January, results and performances calmed down. We did have a 5-0 drumming of 10-man Ipswich, the highlight of that time, but 2-0 up and Smodgets got sent off, and then 3 goals in quick succession gave us a very comfortable and pretty dramatic win. So at the halfway point in the season, we found ourselves top of the league. 19 games played, 13 wins, 4 draws and only 2 losses. Yes, we were overperforming where we should have been, outscoring our XG by 11, showing the improvement that we wanted in the transfer window in terms of scoring goals. This is only a good thing, however again it's another level of overperformance, and as we've seen in previous seasons, we will likely regress to the mean over the second half of the season. But were we on course to hit the numbers that we actually needed? If we predict our current performances into the second half of the season, we can see that we're on course to win more games, draw less and lose less than we need to. We've certainly changed the goal scoring element at the club and we're on course to score 9 more goals than we need. Defensively, we're a little bit culpable and we're on course to concede 7 more than our target. And all of this combined meant we were off our expected goal difference and our expected goal difference per 90, but we're on course to score 3 more points than we need. Are we in a title race? We topped the goal scoring charts in the league and as expected topped the goals over performance as well. Defensively, we're allowing the least passes in our final third, which was awesome. Individually, our players were doing well as well. In terms of average rating, we had 4 players in the top 10, Barcolo, Endrick, Mbuemo and Ahmad. Endrick was the joint top scorer in the league, scoring 14 in 19 games with only 120 minutes per goal on average. Barcolo topped the assist charts with 12 in 19. And we weren't just flying at home, but on the continent as well. We qualified for the Champions League phase, finishing in 7th and losing only 1 game in the process. But the first real test of our juicy, high-value investments was a trip to Wembley for the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal. Although we gave up the majority of possession to the Gunners, we created 2.83 XG to their 1.92. And in the big moments, Endrick showed up. He scored the equalising goal to make it 2-2 after we had been 2-0 down thanks to goals from Gyökeres and an own goal from Matthijs de Ligt. Matthijs Cunha got one back, Endrick scored the equaliser, and then in the 96th minute, Amid Diallo scored the winner. So our first trophy of the season was in the bag. It was a good match, even game at a neutral venue, but we took our chances when we needed to. That is the sign of potential champions. So domestically we had our first domestic win, but the big stage of Europe was a different story. We had got past Bruno Fernandes's new club Atletico Madrid in the first knockout round, and that gave us a Champions League quarter-final tie against cross-city rivals Manchester City. In the first leg, 2 late goals gave us a thoroughly deserved win, with Matthijs Cunha and Brian Mbuemo scoring in the 93rd and 95th minute respectively after a Lenny Yoro own goal had given Man City the lead. We won the game 2-1 and we had the overriding win of the stats as well. An XG of 2.06 to Man City's 0.33. The numbers, it was exactly the kind of performance that says, we can mix it with Europeans' best. But in the second leg at the Etihad, Man City reminded us of why they are one of the benchmark clubs that we are after. After Mbuemo had given us the lead, we conceded goals to Yildiz, Echeverry and Erling Haaland. We bailed out of the Champions League over 2 legs. We lost 3-1 on the night and 4-3 on aggregate. The second leg XG favoured Man City, 2.0 to 1.45. So after winning the first leg, we were knocked out to City. Incredibly frustrating, but something we can learn from. In the league, we'd continued to rack up great results against various teams. We were scoring some absolutely lovely goals as well. Endrick was continuing his early season form and was scoring goals for fun. He was creating a formidable partnership with Barcola, who was laying on chance after chance for his teammates. As we approached the end of the season, and with 5 games left, we sat pretty at the top of the table. We were in a title race with Brighton, of all clubs. We were 2 points clear with 15 points to play for. Brighton had picked up 1 more win than us, but had lost 4 more than we had. It was close, and it was coming down to the wire. Our first game of the remaining 5 was against West Ham, a stern test but one that we really should be winning and getting a good start to that final 5 run-in. In the end, it was a dominating 2-0 win in emphatic fashion. Goals from Ahmad and Mainu secured us a deserved win, 2.8 xG to 0.34, 10 shots on target to none and 55% possession. Our second game of this 5-game run-in was a very frustrating 0-0 draw with Burnley. Burnley goalkeeper Max Vide put in an amazing performance to deny us from scoring, and Burnley didn't even muster a shot on target in 90 minutes. We had 8 shots on target but just couldn't find the breakthrough. In the next game, it was poor Sheffield United that bore the brunt of the frustration against Burnley. A 5-0 win in front of our home fans where we had 25 shots on goal, 15 of them hit the target, and we had an XG of 4.07. We had 4 different goal scorers in a 5-0 win. Absolutely lovely to see. And that win over Sheffield United meant with 2 games to go, we could be crowned champions in our next game. Brighton had slipped up against Brentford and had opened the door for us to win the league away at our historic rivals Leeds United. And of course we did. A 3-1 win over Leeds, a penalty from Brian Mbeumo, goals from Cunha after some very good work from Ferdi Kadioglu, and Endrick gave us a comfortable win. We dominated possession, we dominated shots, and we dominated the XG. It was a real sign of deserved champions. And with the league all wrapped up, the final game of the season was a complete formality. We rotated the team heavily and still came out with a 3-0 win over Nottingham Forest. So after 38 games, we didn't just win the league, we won it by 6 points. Brighton crumbled, losing their final 2 games of the season and allowed Liverpool to leapfrog them into second place. So a 6-point lead over our fiercest rivals Liverpool, and we had won the league a year ahead of schedule. And it was duly deserved. Yes, we scored more points than our numbers actually suggested we should have done, but we were rightly at the top of the table. And in 2.5 of seasons, we had taken Man United from 13th to champions. And not only that, it was a domestic double. But our season wasn't done there. We had one more game. One more trip to Wembley. It was a final step to complete domestic dominance of the season. The FA Cup final against Newcastle. And if you were a neutral, this was chaos in its best possible way. A 3-2 thriller. Dramatic swings in momentum and chances at both ends, but when it mattered, our attacking numbers carried us over the line. 2.67 xG to Newcastle's 1.21. The team were nearly caught short as Newcastle came close to recovering a 3-goal deficit, but we did hang on. First half goals from right back Santos was followed by a second half brace from Matheus Cunha. That had catapulted us into a 3-goal lead. But a late Newcastle comeback with goals from Voltemade and Joel Linton did make it very tense and very nervy for the final 9 minutes. We held on and lifted the FA Cup trophy high at Wembley. So in 2.5 seasons and using only signings made through data, we'd created a team of players that had dominated English football in 1 season. So with that, it was a domestic treble. Premier League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. Brilliant. We had only planned to match ourselves against the targets for second place and be in a title fight, not win the damn thing. But as usual, we'll have a quick look through the data of our new signings. Lucas Bergvall was a Swedish midfield engine. He had become one of the most complete performers in this Man United side. At just 22 years old, he had already looked like the heartbeat of the midfield, and his numbers this season back it up. I mean, just looking at his attributes, technically he is a dream of a modern playmaker. 18 passing, 17 first touch, 17 technique and 18 vision. He was running games with a level of control usually reserved for players at the very peak of their career. On the pitch, he had delivered consistently in the Premier League. 32 appearances, 5 goals, 2 assists, returning an average rating of 7.08. But behind those numbers, his playmaking output was phenomenal. 91 key passes, 91% pass completion, 12 chances created, and 8.19 progressive passes per 90. Defensively, he wasn't just a passenger either. He had made 66 interceptions throughout the season. He's still young, still improving, and already one of the most influential players in the squad. Next up, our new Pigmao. Our homegrown Spanish midfielder, the fullback who brought energy, technical quality and tactical flexibility to the squad. In the Premier League, he started 11 games and made 5 appearances from the bench. He recorded 1 assist, and with a very respectable 6.92 across the season, he did very well. His underlying numbers were also very promising. 91% pass completion, 13 key passes and 3 chances created. He made good interception numbers and won 81% of his tackles, but his standout stat was 33% cross completion. He had actually turned into a wonderful rotation option at right back. Whilst he may not be the flashiest name, he is dependable, he's a squad player, and it's proof that data can work. Italian striker Roberto Piccoli was a powerful, physical, imposing forward who offered a very different profile up front to Endrick. At 6'3", and with 17 jumping reach and 15 strength, he's definitely a classic target forward. But he did bring technical quality and contributed in more than just hold-up play. In the Premier League, he'd made 10 starts and came off the bench 7 times. He scored 4 goals and returned a strong average rating of 6.88 given his limited playing numbers. But 48% shots on target, 6 chances created and 12 key passes showed that he was crucial to how we played. Sticking with the forward line, let's move on to Amine Gouiri. He is our versatile, technically gifted forward who had slotted into this Manchester United attack with real class. This season in the Premier League, Gouiri had made 16 starts and he had scored 3 goals and provided 5 assists. He earned a very strong average rating of 7.13, but his deeper numbers underlined his creative value. 31 key passes, 89% pass completion, 13 chances created and 1.51 shots on target per 90. Whilst he might not be our headline superstar, Gouiri is a wonderful competition for Matheus Cunha in that forward line on the left-hand side. Next up is Bradley Barcolo, and man am I happy that we pinched him under Arsenal's noses. He emerged as one of the most important attacking players in the whole squad. This season in the Premier League he absolutely excelled. 33 appearances, 9 goals, 16 assists and a 7.34 average rating. His underlying data was also elite. 64 key passes, 24 chances created, and 90% pass completion, and 1.36 shots on target per 90 minutes. His chance creation, by the way, was one of the highest in the entire squad and the entire league. His 14.43 XG showed that he consistently got into high value scoring positions, although he did waste a few of them this season. And finally, the Brazilian sensation, Endrick. At just 21 years old, he's already playing like a striker who belongs at the very top of European football. This season in the Premier League has been his breakout campaign. 32 appearances, 22 goals, 8 assists, an average rating of 7.45. He led the line with maturity well beyond his years, and the advanced underlying metric shows just how dominant he's been. 15.55 XG, but he still scored 22 goals. 59% of his shots hit the target. He created 23 chances for his teammates. He had 66 key passes and hit a pass completion ratio of 92%. So he doesn't just score goals. He overperforms his XG and he creates chances. He combines and lifts the entire team. He's not just a wonder kid anymore, he's a world-class striker. Yes, he was expensive, but I think in the first season at least, he's been worth every single penny. So let me know in the comment section, who do you think has been the best transfer that we've made this season? And let me know, if you take away the badge and the transfer value of fees paid, do you think this would be a squad, judging by the underlying numbers, that would challenge or win a domestic treble? And of course, if you want to see more about the underlying numbers of all the squad players that we've got, that'll be in the YouTube extended edition for the members of the channel. So we've done it. We've won the league a year ahead of schedule. But in episode 4, we're going to do one of the hardest things that you can do in the Premier League, and that is retain the Premier League trophy. That is what we're aiming for. Hopefully we'll have a deeper run into the European competition as well, and maybe pick up one or both of the trophies in the domestic dominance again as well. That would be great. Of course, if you've enjoyed this data-driven treble season, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. You can catch up on the earlier episodes over there, and remember, the numbers don't lie.